If you've been taking alpha-lipoic acid for your nerves and felt like nothing happened, I don't want you to walk away thinking it failed you, because there's a real chance you were never taking the dose that was actually studied in the first place. I want to walk you through what the research genuinely says about this one ingredient, and what's sitting on the pharmacy shelf is usually a small fraction of it. First, let me tell you how I ended up caring about this so much. For years, my whole world was peripheral nerves. That's what I operated on. That was my career. And I kept running into the same situation where I had patients I'd done everything surgically I could for, and they'd look at me and ask what else could they be doing. So I went looking for something I could actually put my name behind and recommend to them. I spent more than 3 years in this research, and I don't mean marketing pages. I mean the actual clinical literature, the trials. And then I went and I looked for what was on sale, and honestly, it stopped me in my tracks. Nothing else on the market was even close. The right ingredients would show up on the label, but the doses were at a fraction of what had been studied. And that's when it clicked for me. Most of these companies aren't building around the science at all. They're building around a price point. Their goal is to maximize profit margins. Alpha-lipoic acid is the clearest example I can give you of exactly how this happens. Now let me back up and tell you what this even is. Alpha-lipoic acid is an antioxidant that works inside the energy machinery of your cells, the mitochondria. And that matters for nerves specifically because nerves are some of the most energy-hungry tissues in your entire body. It is also one of the genuinely well-studied nutrients we have for nerve health, especially when it comes to the nerve symptoms that show up with diabetes. So this isn't some sort of fringe ingredient I'm hyping up. It's one of the few with real clinical trials behind it, which is exactly what makes the way it gets dosed on the store shelves so frustrating. Here's the number that I want you to hold on to. In the clinical trial that actually moved the needle on people's symptoms, the oral dose was 600 milligrams a day. Now, go pick up a typical bottle and read the back of the label, because a lot of them list alpha-lipoic acid at maybe 100 milligrams, some at 50. So if you wanted to reach that dose that was actually tested, you'd have to take about 6 of their capsules every single day. And meanwhile, the label is just telling you to take 1, which means most people are walking around getting a sliver of what was actually studied, and then concluding the ingredient doesn't work for them. And to be fair about it, more isn't always better. The research didn't show some big advantage to pushing way past that 600 milligram threshold. And there's clearly a floor you need to get over, but the truth is that most of these products are sitting comfortably well beneath that. Now there's a second layer to all this, and that most people never catch, and that's the form. On the better labels, you'll see it written as R-alpha-lipoic acid, and that's the naturally occurring active version, the form your body makes and uses, and it absorbs better than the cheaper synthetic mixture. But the large clinical trials use the standard form, not the R form on its own. So I use the R form because the chemistry is on its side, and not necessarily that there's some big giant study proving it is more effective. And here's one more thing worth understanding. Even after you've found alpha-lipoic acid at a real 600 milligram dose on the right form, there's a reasonable case that it works better when it isn't working alone. Nerves don't get in trouble from one single ingredient reason. There's the way they carry their signals, the energy they're constantly burning, the oxidative stress they're under, and the condition of the tissues around them. And alpha-lipoic acid really only speaks to a couple of those things directly. So the thinking and a fair amount of the early research is that pairing the ingredients that cover the other pathways may give you a stronger overall result than the same dose taken by itself. The direction the studies keep pointing is consistent, and when you understand how the nerves actually fail, it makes a lot more sense. And you'd want to support more than just one pathway at a time rather than betting everything on one. And that, more than anything, is the second reason I ended up building what I built. It was never going to be enough just to put a real dose of one ingredient in a bottle. I wanted the dose to be right, and I wanted it to work across more than one of those pathways at the same time, with everything listed openly on the label instead of buried in some blend. Because when you step back and look at it, a real dose of the better form costs real money to make, and 50 milligrams of the cheap version costs almost nothing. So you can probably guess for yourself which one of those trends tends to win out when the priority is just protecting a profit margin. And again, that is the goal of most of these other companies, is to maximize profit margins, not necessarily help people. So if you want to start reading your own bottle the same way I just read these, I put together a free nerve health blueprint that walks you through line by line, and that's down in the description. And if you'd like me to take a look at your particular situation, I do a free 10-minute call, and we'll know pretty quickly whether it's something I can actually help you with.